Thanks for joining me on episode 665 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Mario Pareca from 10-Minute Mindset, the podcast. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the right inspiration to set your mindset on the right path is key, and one way to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my good friend, Scott Mader.
But just as surely you can break that cycle. You can begin to reframe how you speak, how you believe, and as you do that, you begin to spiral the other direction. It's a process. It's not an event. It's not something that happens with one magic switch. If I had a magic wand, I would use it, but I don't. So instead, it's about the work that you do. And that's not easy. But oh, is it so worth it? Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world. In today's episode about investing in others through stewarding your treasures, I talk with you about why there's a difference between the tactics we use and the strategy we have, how mindset and why are key strategies for your finances, and why if your strategy isn't right, then the tactics don't really matter. As we talk about stewarding your treasures, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without costing yourself an extra dime? Turns out you can. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show. If you enjoy the show when you're ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon. On Tuesday, I talked a little bit about tactics and strategy when it comes to time management and productivity. And I've seen a similar phenomena when it comes to finances as well. I've worked with hundreds of people on their finances, from small business owners to individuals to couples. And in each case, a lot of times the first frame that people come to when they come to coaching is about the tool. It's about the tactic that we use. I talked on Tuesday about the difference between strategy and tactics, and in case you missed that episode, let me reiterate a little bit of it here. The tactics are those day-to-day, down in the trenches, moment-by-moment things that you do, decisions that you make, tools that you use. While strategy is much more about mindset, it's much more about the high-level decision-making, it's much more about how you think about things rather than exactly what you do. In some ways, strategy is about the why and tactics are about the how. And one of the things I've noticed is all too often we get so focused on the how. What's the tool that I use? If I use the budgeting app that Warren Buffett uses, then I would have the same sort of results that he has. What's the secret? What's the tool that they use to make decisions or to invest the way that they invest or to budget the way that they budget or whatever it is? But the truth is, there's so much more power in understanding the mindset. What is the mindset that a millionaire has? How do they think about the world? How do they frame their decision making so that it's not about the moment by moment things, but rather how they align everything they do with those overarching beliefs? See, all too often, we set up our own barriers. We create things in our mind that are the barrier between tactics and strategy. So it doesn't matter anymore what the tactics are, because the mindset we have, the belief that we have, the high-level strategy that we have is going to move us in the wrong direction. So it's all about that background. It's all about laying the foundation. It's all about the fundamentals. I talked yesterday about how one of the things that I challenge clients on is when they frame things as I had to. When they say to themselves, I had to do this, I immediately tell them, no, you didn't. You chose. Unless somebody had a gun to your head, you always had a choice. And even then, you have a choice, because truly, if it's something that you would sacrifice your life for, you can still say no, even if someone was threatening your very life. There's always a choice. Those other choices may be bad, but there's always a choice. And what's more, there's always more than one other choice, too. All too often, we set things up to be a false dichotomy. Well, I had to buy a new car because the tire was flat. Really? That was your only choice? You didn't have the choice of fixing the tire. The truth is, of course you did. And that's an extreme example and kind of ridiculous, but believe it or not, we put ourselves into those sorts of thinking when it comes to money all the time. We make decisions not based off of real thinking about, does this move us in the direction of those things that we really want? Does it help us provide our values? Does it help us align ourselves with where we want to go? Instead, we don't look at this intentionally. And because we don't think about it and we don't really frame things in that way, we end up using either the wrong tactics or the tactics that we use don't work anyway, because fundamentally the strategy is wrong. And the key strategy is about aligning your mindset. And to do that, you first have to figure out, what is important to me? What do I value? And when you do that, you then can examine your money and your time and look to see if everything is in alignment with that. And I'll give you a secret, it probably isn't. Because the truth is, if your strategy isn't right, the tactics that you use don't matter a hill of beans. Because the truth is, you can use tactics all day long. You can use tools. You can budget, you can sit the app down, you can use the magic app that's going to fix everything. But the truth is, the thing that'll fix your life is you. This is why I love coaching, because it gives me a chance to walk with people and help guide them towards the right mindset, the right beliefs, the right behavior. And out of that comes huge strides. Out of that becomes a chance for everything else to change. But to do that, you have to first recognize that that is the key piece. Instead of looking for the next magic app, looking for the next magic tool, looking for the tactic that's suddenly going to fix your life. It comes from inside of you. It's about how you figure out how you view the world, the language you use. Everything that you say, everything that you do affects your beliefs, and your beliefs affect them. And it becomes a feedback loop that reinforces itself over time. And before you know it, you're stuck into a pattern of habits and behavior that's going quickly towards where you don't want to go. And you can spiral downward. But just as surely you can break that cycle. You can begin to reframe how you speak, how you believe. And as you do that, you begin to spiral the other direction. It's a process. It's not an event. It's not something that happens with one magic switch. If I had a magic wand, I would use it, but I don't. So instead, it's about the work that you do. And that's not easy. But oh, is it so worth it? Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of treasures, you can sign up for our treasures tips by going to inspiredstewardship.com/treasures or text in the U.S. 44222 treasures tips. And we'll send you 5 weeks of our best tips on stewarding your treasures. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.